Yeah, so welcome to the Let's Take a Field Trip video tips and virtual field days. My name is Christine Campbell. I'm the Western Hub Manager for ALUS Canada, and I'm just going to be sort of hanging around, skulking in the background, watching the chat and helping with any technical issues that might come up. Feel free to use that chat feature down at the bottom of your screen for anything you want to say. You can message all attendees, or you can also choose a person to send a private message to if you need to do that. And yeah, just housekeeping, everybody should be automatically muted upon entry, just to make sure our sound quality is good. But you should also be able to unmute yourself if you have a question later on in the bottom left-hand corner. So without further ado, let's turn that over to Katherine Rogers to introduce.
Perfect. So yeah, my name is Katherine Rogers. I am hoping that my sound quality is coming through clearly. Having a bit of technical issues today, so if I get kicked off, then Christine is just gonna start presenting from her screen, and we're hoping that it'll all go smoothly. But internet connection isn't the greatest for me today because we have this. So what we're going to be talking about today is let's take a field trip. So video tips and virtual field days. And thank you to Christine for moderating our video session today. And thank you for Amber for contributing to this session. She made an awesome demonstration that we're going to look at later on. And we're kind of just going to cover a few things today. So in this presentation, our agenda here is we're going to go over a little bit of introduction and background. We'll look at some options for creating videos and go over some tips and tricks. And then there will be a demonstration by Amber. We'll talk a little bit about collaboration and then have lots of time for questions and discussion. So why are we doing this today? We're in a weird point in time right now, and a lot of us work in extension. So trying to figure out how to do extension during a global pandemic has been a little bit of a challenge for a lot of us that do this role. This time of year, we're usually out there doing field tours and extension events, which have been canceled for the foreseeable future. But what can we do instead? So how can we continue to do extension right now during this time? Previous sessions that we've had, so we've had 2 sessions before this that kind of talk about remote outreach, where we talked about webinars and working from home and starting to do some online engagement. So it kind of makes sense that we choose this topic next, as videos are a really valuable tool for education and outreach, and they can be valuable right now during this time as well as any time if you're working in extension. So we're going to start things off with a quick little poll, and I encourage you to answer, as well as if you have any other thoughts, we can go into the chat too. But we'll pull up the first polling question if can. So have you ever made a video for work? Oops. Do we have the answers there? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So 49% of people said yes, and 51% of people said no. So that's split right down the middle there, I guess, I would say. So that's kind of interesting. And then our second question is, what are your barriers for making a video? So is it that you have a lack of experience or confidence? Maybe you don't know what topic to make it on. Maybe you don't have equipment, or maybe you just don't have any time.
And on this one, I believe you can select multiple things if it's.
Yeah, and if you have an answer that doesn't fit in there, that's okay too. You could type it into the chat. So for this one, 79% lack of experience or confidence, 26% not sure what to make it on, 41% for lack of equipment and lack of time. So that's really interesting to me that we kind of don't know what we're doing, and that's why we're here today, luckily. So hopefully at the end of this, you'll feel a little bit more confident and have a bit more, feel like you have some experience to work off of as well. And then the last question I have for us right now is, have you considered making a video for your producers because of COVID or during this time? Have you kind of considered doing it? You don't have to have done it, but if you just thought about doing it. Wow, so 91% have considered doing a video during this time. So that is very exciting to me to hear that. So hopefully in this presentation, we can kind of get some more confidence and get some experience, but yeah, here we go. So we'll look at some of the options for if you are gonna kind of do your own, or if you're looking to hire a pro. And there's a range of ways to create video content, but there's also a range of prices associated with it. So there's pros and cons for pretty much every option. Oh yeah.
Sorry, Catherine, we've lost your screen, or at least I have. I just see a black screen.
Still up for me.
Working for you, Amber?
Yep, it is.
Okay. Maybe it's just me.
Oh no. Technical fun. But so if you can see my screen, you'll see that I kind of have this little range here. So it kind of shows that you can go from the free to cheap option all the way up to, maybe you could blow your whole budget with one video. You might be able to do that if you're doing it that way. So just, you want to think about the purpose of your video. You want to think about the audience. So how many people are you trying to reach with this? Who are you trying to reach with this? The relevance of the information in your video. So if I create a video about a certain topic, is it still going to be relevant in a while, or is it only going to be relevant for 1 week? So those are kind of things you want to think about too. And then the importance to your organization. So if I'm making something, is it going to work in the long run for my organization? Does it stand by with what my organization does? And with that, I would like to kind of budget accordingly. So I would want to make sure that I'm not spending a ton of money on something that isn't going to be important to my organization or to my message. So some of the pros of do it yourself, you know, you can kind of think about this in a lot of ways. There's going to be pros and cons to everything. But if we think about some of the pros of creating your own video, so doing it yourself, and by that I mean filming your own video and putting it together yourself, and being the one that makes your video instead of hiring a professional or a company to come in and make a video for you. That's what I mean by do it yourself. So by doing it yourself, you're going to be able to get specific content that you want, and you'll have full control over the message that your video will promote. It's also going to be a much cheaper option, depending on the equipment that you have access to and the way that you edit it. It will probably be a lot cheaper almost all of the time to do it yourself. And with the B-roll footage, you'll be able to take as much footage as you want, and then you can edit it in a way that you would have more video footage for other videos if you'd like. You could take hours and hours of footage and then spend winter when you're not maybe as busy editing it all together later as well. So that's a bonus of that. You get to set your own timelines, which is really nice. So there wouldn't be holdups in getting started, because you don't have to wait to book an appointment to do a consultation and sit down and do the planning with anyone else. You'll have an opportunity to not have as many scheduling conflicts if it's just yourself that is working on the video. If you're working on a video with a producer, it allows you to be a lot more flexible. And you can set deadlines of when you want to finish, and you can work around that yourself. So if you've got a deadline of 1 week, you can push yourself in that 1 week to get it done. And if you have a deadline from 3 months from now, then you can kind of work around it yourself, and it gives you more flexibility than if you're working with a company. I put authentic here because I think that doing your own video allows you to show your authentic self, and it is able to demonstrate your message simply without lots of other distractions. So if it's just you talking to a camera, like hopefully there's not too many distractions around that draw away from your message. But it'll allow you to kind of focus in on the subject rather than all these flashing lights and things like that that you might want to add in if you had a bigger budget or something. Also spontaneous. So by creating your own content, you're able to be flexible and spontaneous with your message as well. So even though you may plan for one thing and plan for your video to go a certain way, we've seen more than ever this year that things change by an instant. So by filming and editing on your own, you can make some last minute changes and additions, and that'll help to keep your content and your message relevant. There are some cons to doing things yourself though. This could end up being pretty time consuming, especially if you are new to video editing. So if you have a full workload, just make sure that the video, it can take up a lot of your time. So you want to make sure that you have that time and that you aren't pushing off other work to just work on this, since it will take a lot of your time. The production quality, you know, it's probably not going to end up as good as if it's made by a production company, but that doesn't mean that it won't be good at all. It's just that it might take some extra time and some extra energy and practice to get better at it. The production company, this is their job, so they know what they're doing pretty well, so the quality may not be as good as theirs. For planning and organization, everything falls onto you. The whole responsibility of getting this thing going will be on you. So you'll be the one that has to plan and write scripts and figure out scenes and get all the footage completely on your own. So it is a big responsibility to take that on. And for some of us, again, we just don't have that time. You also may be missing getting a unique perspective from working with a production company. So they might be bringing in some creative minds on board, which would help to give, if you're doing kind of something for your organization, it could give it a new lens or see things from a different perspective. And that might help you. And they also are aware of new trends and things that would make your video stand out that you may not know of as you're just getting started with it. So that's something to consider as well. A lot of DIY projects, especially a lot of DIY video projects, they never end up getting finished. So you need to be motivated and you need to have accountability to yourself to finish your videos, because it is a lot of work, but I'm sure if you are a motivated person, then you can get this done. You just have to make sure that you are setting those timelines and being realistic with yourself about the work that you can do. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about equipment. So in this presentation, I'm not looking to promote one certain brand over another. We're all kind of experimenting and learning on our own, and Amber will kind of talk a little bit about what she personally has used. And we're going to open up the floor for discussion later about specifics on equipment, but this is just kind of an overview of the types of equipment you would need. So I always think about how difficult it would be to explain to someone 100 years ago the technology that we all have just sitting in our pockets today. So we are really lucky to have the technology that we have on hand at all the time. So you can actually create some amazing content just using your cell phone. You would be surprised at how clear and great quality even an old or cheaper phone can make and produce. So just start by testing out with your phone and see what the quality of the videos you make are like when you upload them onto a computer, and ask around maybe and see if you have a digital camera. Like if you have one sitting in a drawer somewhere that you just don't use anymore, or if your workplace has one that isn't in use, you can test these out. You'll become more familiar and it'll be a better quality video as well. And we can talk a bit later too about collaboration. Like if you're going to only be using a video for or a camera for one day, maybe there could be a way to share cameras and things like that with other people. And that's one option as well. We are going to talk about microphones now. They're a great tool and they can also vary a lot in price range. So it's important if you're going to be shooting outdoors to include a microphone. We talk about lapel microphones, so ones that can clip onto you and you can just kind of have it hidden. They're discreet, they're really nice. And you can use them for different events too later in the future. But if you aren't able to get your hands on a microphone, or you do and the sound just kind of turns out really crummy after, you can actually just do a narration over the video later. So that's something to think about too, is if you just don't have a good microphone on you, but you have like an iPhone microphone, you can always edit in the sound later if you're talking about it. So that's always a good option. A stabilizer is a great tool to use if you're filming a video that involves any walking around or any movement. That's something that you could look into investing into. And then tripods, also same kind of idea, is a great thing. It will keep you kind of in place. And you can use them from online. You can find them on Amazon or Dollarama. And if you're using a digital camera or camera, it might require a more specific one. But for videos of yourself, if you're just sitting like this, you may not even need a proper tripod, and you can just try to use some online hacks. Like sometimes if I'm just doing a video call and I'm not using my laptop, I'll have my phone held up by a couple books or something like that, and that will get the job done if you're just filming a video of you sitting still. So that's fine too. Editing software is going to be the make or break for your project and your sanity as well. So there are free versions available, and there's some built into your computer, and you'll definitely you can get the job done with them, but you might want to pay more if you're looking to do more than just a simple video. The more you pay for the software, the more you'll be able to do with your video. And Amber is going to talk about video editing later and let us know a little bit more. So just some kind of quick tips. And yeah, we're going to send out a one-pager after this presentation that'll kind of go over it a little bit more. So I'm already kind of going over the time I had planned. So I don't want to go into too much depth, but important to note, when you're filming a video, don't film like this. Always turn it horizontal. You want to light from the front, not from behind. And avoid movement. That's where the stabilizer tripod comes in really well. Definitely get more content than you need. One thing that I was suggested in videos is to film 10 seconds before and 10 seconds after, and that'll just help you when you're editing, and it'll just make sure that you're not jumping in halfway through a sentence or something like that. So you'll also want to get some extra content, do some extra takes, especially if you're working with someone else, and just make sure that you get the things right, so that you don't have to go back to them a couple days later and ask them to reshoot it. So that's always good. And then what else is there? There's the B-roll footage is always great to include too, some extra footage, especially if it's a nice day. Just take as much as you can so that you don't have to go back out when you're editing and add some more stuff in there later. So when you're editing your video, there's some things that you'll want to consider including. So you would like to include your logo, probably an intro and outro, which could include things like credits, extra websites and resources, and sponsors or donors. Oh, some people are asking the B-roll. So that's the secondary. So it would be, if I was making a video of someone, the B-roll would be like extra footage that I add in after. So just kind of not the primary point of the video, but some extra video clips to add in. So yeah, you want to have your intro, outro. You can narrate over your video while you're editing it. You can trim the video so that it's shorter. You can kind of cut it up and take out some of the stuff you have in there to make it shorter. And then you can also add in some extras like there's nameplates you can add in, or arrows or circles you can do to things to kind of make them stand out or to highlight them a little bit. As well, music, you need to be aware of royalties. It would be a huge shame if you spent all this time editing and putting together a video and then have it taken down for copyright. So we don't want that to happen. Lots of maybe the softwares can have built-in music that's royalty-free, or you can find royalty-free music. Just search into it and make sure you've done your research on the music. And then you want to keep it at the right length. So make sure you kind of keep it here. There's also, these are just suggestions. There's no right or wrong amount of time. I just feel like if you're on social media, on Facebook or on Instagram or something, and a video is longer than 10 seconds, you're probably going to want to click out of it, just because a lot of people have shorter attention spans now. And then you can do 1 to 3 minute video for social media as well if you're going to have some more information included. And then YouTube is where you'd want to have the longer content, where people are actively sitting down and watching the video and all of that. So these are just some guidelines of what type of length to have your videos. And then for uploading your video, where, how, you can upload them to YouTube. You can embed videos into your website. You can share your videos on social media or in your newsletters. You can pay for advertisements even, and you want to keep track of how you are seeing your views and shares. So that's why YouTube is great, because it shows you what you've got as how many views you've had, and it'll show you over time how many views. So I think an important part of making this content is making sure that we share it and encourage each other to share each other's content as well. And we're hopefully going to do another session that focuses a little bit more on marketing and kind of communication strategies. So I'm not going to go too in depth on that right now, but it's just something to note in the future. All right, so with that, I'm going to share this video that Amber has put together of her kind of going through the steps of making a video and editing it. I really hope that the quality will come out well right now. It might be a little bit fuzzy. Just bear with us as we try to get this going. Can we see the video? All right. Oh, great.
Well, we can see it.
Okay, let me try again.
If not, Christina or I could probably play it from our end of things.
Amber, do you want to pull it up on yours? Just
Yeah.
like. I have it open, but it's already kind of glitchy, so I don't know.
Yeah, computers definitely, they definitely smell fear. Does anyone know of a virgin we can sacrifice? The tech gods.
As I'm trying to find this, I will just say, because I think I have to actually get it from Google Drive. One of the things to remember when you're doing videos is that they take up a ton of space. So make sure you have a really big drive going into it, because that's definitely an issue I have run into. So just 1 second.
Yeah, that's a good note too, actually, that you'll see on the tip sheet too, is just making sure that your camera has enough space and enough battery before you go out to start to film. Just some of those simple things that we don't always think about.
I have it open again, so I can try. And then if it, we'll just see what we can do.
Yeah, and Trevor's saying cloud-based storage like OneDrive, Google Drive, etc., are very helpful, and I agree with that. And a lot of them are really cheap now these days too. You can get pretty unlimited storage for next to nothing, and you can actually get like a decent amount even for free through some of those resources.
Okay, I do have it pulled up too, so if you guys need, I can.
Okay. You go for it, Amber, because your internet's probably better than mine.
I think, did you guys give me the ability to share my screen?
You should be able to.
So I'm just pulling it off of Google Drive, but it'll show. Okay, you guys can see that?
Yes. It's a little bit blurry.
Hi, Amber Kenyon here. So I'm with Gateway Research Organization, and considering we're talking about video editing, I'm betting you guys can guess that this video has nothing to do with cows. That being said, these girls are really cute. So I figured they would make a good addition to the video, and I was out moving heifers today at the heifer pasture at Grove. So anyway, as we get going, we're going to talk a little bit about video editing and how that can work with our extension practices.
Uh-oh. We've kind of frozen. It's gone mute. Amber, I don't know if that's on your end.
Yeah, give me just 1 second here. I was trying to stop. There we go. This will be better. Okay.
As COVID-19 hit, I realized, hey, we're not going to be able to get out there and put on events in the same way we did before. And even once we can, I think the world is shifting. We have seen declining numbers in our events for the last little while, and so we need a new way of reaching people. And what a better way than videos? We really get to put out our feel, our heart towards the topic that we're doing through videos. I've found while I'm editing, especially my farmer friends videos, I can adjust it. I can make it, the way that I see them is the way that I can show them to the world. And I think that's one of the really exciting things about video editing. It's like putting together this puzzle, and you get to show the world through your eyes. So as we go into this, we're going to talk a little bit about equipment. When I first started off, just using my cell phone, no fancy sound equipment, nothing like that. We did do that for Grow before COVID-19 hit. We did a live stream of one of the workshops that we did, and it was actually quite good considering the fact that it was just with my cell phone, no sound equipment, nothing fancy. You were able to hear the speakers, you were able to see the speakers. So that's a very low cost option as we go into this, and it's a good way to start out. And then there's of course more expensive options that we'll look at as well. And so with those expensive options, you know, now I'm using Sandeep's DSLR camera. So Sandeep's the manager at Gateway Research Organization. So I'm using his Nikon D3200 DSLR camera, which does a lot better video, as you can tell, than a cell phone video would. However, not necessary. I'll show you the sound equipment that I'm using right now. And honestly, it wasn't that expensive, and we'll get into the costs and everything, and I'll show you what it looks like and how it works. But I have a lapel mic, and it's wireless, so this is something that even if we were doing outdoor sessions later on down the road when we can meet, we could hook this into a PA system. This lapel mic will actually hook into a cell phone, and so you could do live streams with good sound. And it's quite windy out today, and the sound is still fantastic, which is something that I've been very impressed with this mic system with. Then we'll get into some video editing software. So there are a lot of different options for video editing software. I, of course, have my preferences. I am not an expert. I just have played around with a little bit of it. I've experimented and just kind of seen what's out there. And so when we look at the software, keep that in mind. I'm not promoting any one product. I'm just giving you my personal experiences on what this software is that's available. And I know that there's a ton that I haven't tried. There's so many options out there, and they range everywhere from free options up to some more expensive options, which is what we've kind of moved up to at Grow Now. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into looking at some of the equipment, and then I'll display some of the software that I've been using. Filmora 9 is what I started on, and then Filmora Pro is what I'm currently using. I played with Adobe Premiere Pro a little bit. I found it really hard to use as a beginner. It's a little more in depth. Filmora 9 was a lot easier. But yeah, we'll get into that as I show you what some of this looks like. So yeah, thanks for joining, and thanks for coming out to see the cows. They're pretty happy here. Okay, let's have a chat about equipment. So, like I said, I started off just using my cell phone, and I still do use my cell phone. When it comes to live videos, if I want to get different angles, sometimes my cell phone is easy when the camera's on the tripod. That being said, right now we are currently using Sandeep's DSLR. So this is a Nikon D3200. It is a very good quality entry-level DSLR. If you're like me and you've never picked up a DSLR before, there are a lot of settings on this. There's a lot to learn. This is a really good one to start off with. So this one currently isn't available anymore. However, you can buy the next one up, which is the Nikon D3500. It comes with the lens kit, so this piece here, and you're looking at about $600 for a camera of a similar stage like this. And of course it does do really, really nice videos. I've been very happy with it. Now, the next thing to look at is sound equipment. So sound equipment is something that I've had to learn a ton about, and I'm still learning, but this setup is very, very nice. So this is the Rode Wireless Go system. Just these two little boxes. So this is a mic in and of itself. You don't necessarily need a lapel mic to get this working for you. I like the lapel mic. The lapel mic cancels out a lot of the noise. If it's windy out, it also is a lot more discreet than this is. I mean, this isn't big. It's very, very light. But, you know, I like the lapel mics. I like the look of them on speakers. Now, this syncs up to a receiver, and this is the receiver, so again, very small, which would hook into your camera. So we're gonna hook this into the camera, and that's a thing to notice when you're purchasing a camera, is make sure that it does have a mic in slot. Not all of them do, and the video quality on cameras, or the sound quality on cameras, isn't that great for video. So just hook up in this. I normally will just, you know, hook it to the strap here, and you don't even notice that it's there. It's great. So this system was $279. The really nice thing about this system is even when we're back to in-person events, you could easily plug this into a PA system and have a speaker be able to broadcast his voice much further. The distance on this has been really, really good. I was out shooting a film of someone on horseback, and I was actually able to pick up his voice when he turned the right way from a good distance away, which I was really impressed with. So to make this all work together, you actually have to have this little piece. So the mic that I'm using right now, the lapel mic, is a Smart Lav Plus. So the Smart Lav Plus was $109. Like I said, I really like it. It's really small. So you don't even notice this on people that are presenting in videos. But this wouldn't automatically plug into the Rode Wireless Go system without this little adapter. So this little adapter can be purchased. I purchased these at Long & McQuaid. The adapter was $20.99. So altogether, you're looking at under $1,000 for this equipment here. The other thing that I do want to mention is a tripod. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a tripod. This is something that I wouldn't go without anymore. I did try in the beginning. It doesn't work very well. You want to make sure your videos are really well stabilized. The other thing that I've noticed when I do videos is if you're panning, make sure that you have a really good tripod. So the one that I have costs approximately $100. You don't want to go much cheaper than that, no matter what you're doing, because you're probably just going to find it's going to break. It's going to be fairly flimsy. But if you're going to be doing a lot of panning, you probably want to go over that $100 range. You want to get a good quality one. One of the options instead of doing panning is to make sure you take a lot of footage. So take video shots of all over the place, and then you can use different angles. And that works just as well, if not better than panning. It looks a lot more professional, and it's a lot easier to do, and of course cheaper. You don't have to spend the money on a higher quality tripod. So that is the equipment, and let's go over and have a look at what the software is behind this, how I edit these videos, and what all you can do with it, because there is a ton you can do with this video editing software. It's actually really exciting, and if you're anything like me, you'll end up spending far too much time playing around with it and getting to know what you can do with it. So yeah, here we go. Let's look at software. So now that we've seen the equipment that I'm currently using and talked about some of the stuff that I've used in the past, let's have a look at our software. Now, this is Wondershare Filmora 9. Filmora 9 is probably the thing that I would recommend the most for anybody just starting out. If you haven't used editing software before, this is a really good starting place. There are a lot of resources online if you have questions, and it's fairly easy to use. It's very easy to navigate. I've used Adobe Premiere Pro. That is a really good program. It's what all the professionals use. However, it isn't very simple to use. I found that I had to Google almost everything. If there was something very simple that I should be able to just figure out on my own, I wasn't able to. I had to Google it. So Filmora 9 kind of takes a lot of that away, and it's once you get a good idea of what the layout is, it's pretty simple. So video editing works a lot in layers. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. To start off, I would import a clip. So I'm going to go into my files here, and we are doing video editing. So this is the intro to the clip that we're using today. Now, what I would do, so this is the media spot. This is where you're going to have all of your files available to you. So you just double click on it and get to whatever you need to get to. If I wanted 2 of them in here, this is kind of what it looks like. So now both these videos are in here. Now to put them together. So this is the timeline in Filmora Pro. This is the main thing that you're going to be working in. So as you can see, there's a video part of the timeline, there's audio, and then you get multiple layers. So I'm going to throw this video into this layer here. And you can see it all. Now, if I want to separate out the audio, which is what I do with a lot of the videos, because you might want to put music in the background. You might want to change the audio, and maybe it was really high and the volume was too loud, so you can change that. So to detach the audio, I'm just going to click that button there, and now it becomes something that I can work with either the video or I can work with the audio on its own, so they don't end up synced up. Now, one of the first things I'm sure most of us as Extension are going to want to do is be able to add logos into our video. So to add a logo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click in that section again. I'm going to go to where my logos are, and I'm going to find the logo that I want to throw into this. So I'm going to double click on it, and again it shows up here, and I just pull in timeline. So this is where I was talking about layers. Now I'm going to throw this into a second layer. So as you can see in the viewer screen, the logo is on its own. I can click and work with the video, or I can click on it and I can work with the logo. Now I want to downsize it. I want to maintain the same size. So with this, I could change an image so that it either gets wider, it gets taller. I want to make sure that it stays the same. So I'm going to hold the shift button down, and I'm just going to decrease this in size. And now you can drag it to wherever you want it in the video. So you can do the same thing with pictures. If you have a slide you want to put up, you can do that. So I'm going to go back to the timeline. I'm just going to drag this out throughout the whole video because I want it throughout the whole thing. Now, if you want it in only part, you can do that. The other, one of the main things that you're going to end up using is trimming. So this is probably the most frequent thing that I end up doing in these videos. So this little red line here, you would just drag it to wherever you want to trim. So say we want to start the video here. I'm going to click on the intro and I am just going to click this trim button. And then I'm going to click on the audio too and trim that because I want them to be synced up. So from there I can delete it. So I can either right click and pick delete that, and then I want to delete this part too, so I can click the trash button. That works too. So there's a lot of these little hotkeys in here. And then that's trimming. I guess the other major thing to talk about is transition. So if you're trying to put two videos together, we'll just scroll to the end of my video here. Oh, it's big. I'm going to just change it so it looks a little bit smaller. And we're going to drag down the second video that we're going to use. Now, for transitions, to make it look smooth, so if I were to just play this right now, it's going to just chop right in really fast. Okay, let's have a chat about equipment. Always want that. So in order to change that, there are so many different effects in here. And I again, this is something that you're gonna have to play around with if this is something you're looking into. But if you wanna do a transition, I'm gonna click on transition, and dissolve is probably one of the ones I use most frequently. So you just hold it, you drag it down, and then put it in between the two videos. So let's turn off the sound. Now, if I'm going to play this back again, so I'm just going to click where I want it to start in the timeline, and I'm going to hit play, and now you'll see it just does that nice smooth dissolve into the next video. You can make these longer, so it's a longer dissolve. You can make it shorter. Again, very, very, just the beginning of what this program can do. There's effects. If you want a picture to fly in, you can have it do it. There's titles. You can do subtitles in this. So it's just the very beginning of it. The other thing that I should talk to before we finish this off is exporting. So with the exporting setting, this is what you're going to be looking at. So you need to change it into a file that's all together. And this is what you can do. So you just click export, you click the folder that you want. It does take a long time, especially if you're doing any larger videos. So do plan, like if you're doing an hour-long video, it's going to take a couple of hours to export. So just do keep that in mind. And there's a ton of settings in here to play with too. If you have questions about any of these settings, give me a call, or there is a lot of resources on Google. So just before we go, I'm not going to go too much into Filmora Pro. I really recommend this is where you start off with if you haven't done any of this editing stuff before. Filmora Pro, though, I'll give you an idea of what it looks like. So this is Filmora Pro. This is me actually working on our current video in here. So as you can see, there's a lot more to this. One of the things I like is this trimmer video, this trimmer section here. So I can take a movie and I can say, hey, I want this to start here. I want it to end at a certain place. And then I can actually just put the video into a thing without actually having to take the audio in, or I can use just the audio of that small clip that I want. So, and then the other thing that it does, I'm just going to remove this, is it then has the preview screen. That is sound equipment. So sound equipment. The cool thing about this is I can have two different things open at once. I can work with both. The layout is very different than Filmora 9. It's a lot closer to what Adobe Premiere is. And so a lot more to it, a lot more going into where you want things. You get to really put all of the different windows where you want them in this, which is a really nice feature, but it does make it a lot more confusing if you're just getting into all this and just learning. The export screen, you can have multiple exports up here. So yeah, again, a lot more in depth. If you have questions about it, please reach out and ask. I would be more than happy to talk about any of this stuff. And then before we close out this section of the presentation, I want to just show you one of the videos that I've done so you can kind of see what we can do with this. And I know that as this goes forward, we're going to come up with so many more ideas on how we can use videos for a lot of our presentations and how to reach producers. So with all of that being said, let's go into one of the videos that I've made. And if you guys want to see more of these videos, they are on the Gateway Research Organization YouTube channel. Feel free to check it out to take ideas from it. And yeah, so thanks for this, and let's head into the video. Hi, Amber Kenyon here with Gateway Research Organization. So today we are very fortunate. We're going to go and have a chat with Kenley and Drew and Kenley's parents over at Bent Grove Farm. So Kenley is on the board of directors of Grow, and they're in the process right now of transitioning the farm over from his parents to him and Drew. So that's what we're going to kind of look at today. They are also direct marketing. They do a lot of really cool things on the farm, and they are just a great people. I know that you're going to fall in love with them, much like I have. So with no further ado, let's head over to Bent Grove Farm and have a chat with them.
Hi, we are Bent Grove Farm, and I'm Drew. This is Kenley. Oliver's our oldest, he's 6. Russell's our middle, he turns 5 tomorrow, and this is Hazel, and she's 2. And this is my mother-in-law, Faye. This is actually her place. We are transitioning right now. We're planning to move this summer and do the farm transition. So me and Kenley moved up here about 5 years ago. We both actually had corporate jobs. We worked in the city, he worked in Calgary, and I worked in Red Deer. And after we had our first son, Oliver, we realized that town life wasn't for us, city life wasn't for us, 9-to-5 jobs weren't for us, and we were both raised on farms and knew that it was time to get back to the farm. So we actually made a incredibly spontaneous decision and both quit our jobs, and we moved up to the farm and decided to start farming with Faye and Ernie and do some direct marketing. So we raise grass-fed lamb and grass-fed Dexter beef, and we direct market it straight to the consumer, mostly by word of mouth and using Facebook, and it's been great so far. Yeah, and we farm full-time and raise our family, and we are really, really proud to be providing our customers with high-quality food, and they know exactly where it's coming from. They know our farming practices. They know who raised it and how it's raised, and it is absolutely our passion to do that. We also have laying hens here. That's Faye's thing. She does the chickens. We have broilers, we have pigs, we have geese and ducks. We have a great big garden over there. Like, just the variety of everything there's never a dull moment. And raising the kids on the farm, that was definitely a huge catalyst for us moving up here, because there is no better way to have your childhood.
Succession farming's been better than most for us. We're in the process right now of switching houses, I guess. Right now we live about 4 miles away. Mom and Dad are going to be moving there, and we're going to be moving the family here so that we're closer to the animals and can take more of a primary role on feeding and everything else that is involved. One of the things, I guess, that make us a little bit different from a lot of other farms is although we all work together and we all have ideas and stuff, but the two primary operators, I guess, is myself and Mom, who are the most involved in taking care of the animals and everything else. My dad here, he's retired and has lots of projects on the go that involve everything from grandkids to trucks. So it's, like I said earlier, it's great that we can work with the different generations from my kids to my parents. Should also say we farm with my uncle a little bit. For us personally, it's been great that we have an expanded village of knowledge base to lean against and learn from. Definitely it made the transition from not farming to farming a lot easier for us. One of the best or the most valuable aspect of it is openness. Mom and Dad have never really hidden anything from us, from books or practices or anything like that, and we haven't from them either. So we all know what page we're on, and we can all be on the same page. I have seen lots of other friends who have not had that, and I think that's you got to get both generations to buy into it all.
We acquired this farm from Ernie's dad and mom, so this is he will be the third generation, and the kids, with any luck, will be the fourth generation.
Thank you guys so much for welcoming us onto your farm like that. Thank you for being willing to talk with us and let us in on what your story is. So with that being said, if you like this video, please feel free to subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We'd be happy to chat with you. Give us a call if you have any questions. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you, Amber, for making that video for us. I think it does such a great job of going over what it takes to make a video. And I don't know, I have a really warm feeling in my heart right now after seeing all those kids with the kittens and all the lambs. So I think that's a great example of the kind of topic and the kind of content that you can create. And Amber just showed us the tools that she used, and I think that it creates an awesome video. And as Amber said in her video, you should follow Grow on Facebook and Twitter and check it out, because they have lots of videos there. So I just have a tiny bit more of our presentation left. Here we are. So the last kind of topic I wanted to talk about before we wrap up today is just to do with collaboration. So it is a lot of work to make these videos, and it can be overwhelming. So I think that there's no better time than right now for us as rural extension staff to work together and collaborate on some of these projects together. So first of all, we can look at identifying and filling in gaps in content. So if you know that there's a video you want to create, and you know that there's a few topics you want to create, then maybe check out what there is lacking right now online for producers so that they can find the right information that they need. And then we can kind of split it up between us. So if we know that I'm working on this topic and Amber's working on this topic, then maybe you could work on this topic instead. So that would be one option there. We kind of looking at where can we store our content? So where can we keep our content so that we can share it with each other? And one option that we have for that is our Slack group that we have. So if you haven't already joined the Slack group, it was in the email that I sent out, and you can definitely find us on there and find, we can start sharing our content a bit more on there. And then through social sharing, so sharing it on your social media pages to create some more content for your pages, you can definitely do that by sharing each other's content and doing that on your own page as well, and as an organization, just to help boost each other's kind of viewership on each other's pages. And then just make sure that if you're using someone's video, make sure to acknowledge that and make sure you have the right to use it. So if I'm hosting a web session, I'd want to make sure that if I'm going to show Amber's video, that I'm letting her know that I'm showing it during my webinar or something like that, and then inviting her to join if there's questions after. I think that this, if all technical issues go away and you don't have technical issues, sharing a video on your webinar is great, and I think that that's awesome. And we've talked about during our last session about kind of having watch parties and things like that together. And this is also something that you can use to have. So it was great that Amber was able to create this video before, because then we were able to see the whole thing from start to finish, and she wasn't trying to do it while being live, and it was able to be really nice and polished. So that was a bonus, and you could definitely do that again in the future. So I have some final polling questions. I know we're almost at 2:30, so hopefully we can stick around for a little bit longer if you don't have to rush off anywhere. So the last kind of questions that I had, and Christine, I don't know if you're able to pull those up for us, was do you have tools or access to resources to create a video right now? So do you have any, if you're thinking about the tools that we mentioned today, do you have access to these? So a bit of mixed response here. So 46% of people saying yes, 19% saying no, and then 35% saying working on it. So that's awesome. And hopefully, if you need any help getting tools or resources, just let us know. We will send out that tip sheet after as well. They'll have some more information. So next I'm going to ask, will you create a video? So do you think now that you've kind of learned a little bit more about what it takes, do you think that you will? Yes, no, maybe, I'd like to, I kind of want some more support. So 69% now saying, yes, I'm going to create a video. No one said no. So I'm really glad that nobody watched this and went, okay, no, not for me. I'm glad that that's the response. 26% saying maybe, and then 23% I'd like to, but I need some more training, and that's totally fine. We can try to share these resources and hopefully open up a discussion for some more. I really like this positive response. And Christine says, I can't wait to watch all your videos, and I completely agree. I hope that we have lots of content to consume this year, so I'm very excited. And along that line, if you do create a video, I would love to see it. So send me your links and things like that. I would love to see that. And we can talk about marketing in the future. Hopefully within the next month or so, we can host another session if that's what we're interested in, and talk a little bit more about how to utilize social media and how to utilize the tools that we have to market your own content. So yeah, that the other questions I kind of had were just a bit more of sort of to leave you with some questions. So as you walk away from this today, can you think of some more topics that you'd like to do a video on? Can you think of some ways that you'd like to collaborate? You don't have to submit your topics into the chat. That's okay. You can keep them to yourself. But if you can think about some ways to collaborate, or if you're open to collaborating, that would be great. And we can kind of start to go from there and start to create some connections with each other here. So yeah, I'd love to hear some questions now if you have any, or if you have any ideas for future topics for us to have webinars on, then just let us know, and you can always reach out for collaborations too.
Great. We do have a couple of questions in chat. Question, videos and live streaming with GoToMeeting and Zoom. Does anybody experience that?
Sorry, what was the question again?
It's just in the chat, videos and live streaming with GoToMeeting and Zoom.
So I'm actually working on one right now. It's with Gabe Brown and Steve, my husband. So we're doing a coffee shop chat. And what I did is I had Zoom going on multiple computers. And so and I'll see how it turns out. We'll see, because I have to try and match the audio to the video of the different sources. But so on one laptop, I had full screen. On a second laptop, I had it side by side. So on the one he was working on, and then I had the camera set up, and I also had cell phone set up. So I'm using 4 different video sources, and then using Zoom for that. So we'll see what it actually turns out with, but it is more difficult for sure when you get the extra sources. Just audio can be difficult in a lot of these.
Right. Yeah. And a good follow-up question to that is how to best manage audio when using cell phones.
I would say, honestly, invest in a lapel mic when it comes to cell phones, especially. It's worth it. The amount of wind that can cancel out, like I did one of Sandeep out in the grain field, and it was windy like crazy, and you could barely tell. I would definitely say invest in a little bit, especially if you're doing outdoor stuff. If you're doing indoor stuff, it's not nearly as important. Just go with it. But for outdoor stuff, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we've had some really great comments in the chat about what kinds of topics people would like to see in the future. So I'm making notes of those. Please continue to send them our way, either in the chat right now, or you should all have Catherine's email address. I'll throw her under the bus as the repository. For sure. That, or you know, if you have mine or Amber's, you're more than welcome to contact us too.
Definitely. I like Brenda made a comment here, and she says, I'd like to stress the value of starting with a story box that maps out the content that you'll need to create in the video. And that's a really good point. I know when I was in school and we had, you know, kind of, you had to build the skeleton of what your essay was like, even, and things like that. Like, understanding where your start and finishes, and mapping out everything that you need to get, and even kind of drafting a scene like, okay, yeah, in between this farmer talking about this and this farmer talking about this, I want a good image of grass. You have to map that out kind of beforehand, so you make sure to get all of the images that you do need. So that is a really good point. And there's a lot of information online about that too, when you start to sit down and do some research into it. And I would even suggest looking up some more stuff about kind of storytelling 101. Yeah.
I would say don't be too rigid though if you're interviewing farmers, especially like the people who don't normally speak in front of a camera. Don't be super rigid, and be ready with a list of questions to ask them to lead them into what you want them to talk about, because you can always edit out your own voice. Yeah, just don't be super rigid on it, because they won't always say what you want them to say.
Yeah, it's always kind of awkward when you give someone a script of what you want them to read out, because then you feel more pressure to read this exactly the way it is, even though you know what it is that you want to say. Sometimes having the script makes it even worse. So practicing a lot helps build your confidence in front of the camera as well, and all of that too.
So another good question in the chat is, are there file formats that are easier to manipulate than others, or does that not matter? That's maybe a question for Amber.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with it, with any of the file formats. You will want to, and I won't be able to give you all the numbers off the top of my head, but before depending on where you're uploading it to, so if you're uploading it to Facebook, they have certain things, like this is more on the exporting side. They have certain settings that they require, and then for YouTube, there's certain settings that are ideal. So I would definitely Google that before you get to the export part, but when it's coming in, most of these programs can handle many different file formats. So I wouldn't stress out about that too much. Just really watch on the export side and know what you're planning on doing with the video long term.
Great point. I think a good tip too is to just try things in a micro format, right? Don't invest several hours of time and then find out on the back end. Maybe just, you know, go take a video of your dog and then try importing that into the into whatever software you're trying to use, and just double check.
That's a good point, Christine. And I would say, like, I've done a lot of practice with it. I actually, like I said, I started with church, and I've been doing these every week now with church. So get out and do it. That's basically the way you're going to learn the best, because if you can spend tons of hours looking it all up online, but until you actually get doing it, you're not going to find your own style, your own way of doing things. So just go out and start taking videos.
It's a really good point, yeah, because you don't want your first experience to be a big project for work and all of that. So having a little bit of test time, and I think that a lot of softwares also usually come with a built-in kind of tutorial thing for you to go along with as well. And the video that Amber made, I'll try to get a link, be able to share it to you outside of the video of this session, just so you can go back and look at it too. And that way you can rewatch some of the tips that she included there. But again, I just would love for everyone to try out what they can. And Trevor made a good comment that YouTube is great for finding software tutorials. Yeah, it's awesome. So utilize that as well.
So we do have another comment that's come in to me privately here. I will be working on projects where I'm filming and interviewing farmers. Do you guys have any more advice for that? And that could probably be a whole topic in and of itself, but any quick tips?
Some quick things that I've noticed. So in earlier videos that I've done, you'll kind of see a difference in the way that I've been doing them. Some of the things that I've noticed, for one, get one camera angle just straight on of whoever's talking. Don't bother moving it around a lot. Fill that in with all the extra shots if you want, all that B-roll footage. Panning can look super awkward, especially when you're first starting out. So do that, get a camera on the person speaking. Like I said, make them feel comfortable. The moment that we try to force them into a box, it's going to look very forced. It's not going to look natural. So get them comfortable. It helps if you're comfortable like with them, if you actually know them. Those would be the biggest things, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Brenda noted open-ended questions. Yeah, you don't want to ask them a question that's yes or no. That's don't want to be doing that. So think back to your drama classes in high school and
another request for any quick tips or suggestions for plots and tour videos. Thinking more.
I would say that goes back to B-roll. Like, just make sure you're taking, and it seems like sometimes when you start taking this stuff, you're like, seriously, I'm taking a picture of like one plant. This seems ridiculous. Like, just taking a video of that. You're never going to have enough of that. That is one of the things I've noticed. You never have enough. And even though it seems like it's really long when you're sitting there with the camera, when you go back, it's usually not long enough because you can't always use all of it. So maybe some of it was out of focus. Maybe some of it was, someone was doing something in the background or a mosquito flew through your camera or something. So you're never going to have enough of that. Do B-roll for the plot tour videos.
Yeah, I would definitely say too, yeah, it's you would want the video of the person talking about that plot probably to start with, and then you can edit that B-roll footage into it with their voice over top of it, and that will just keep it from being just someone talking at the computer at you. It kind of keeps it a little bit more interesting as well. So yeah.
Great. I think there's been lots of great comments in the chat, so hopefully people have been following along there, but I think we've caught most of...
There's one here from Megan here, and she's talking about using a GoPro. The only time I've used a GoPro is when my family and I go skiing and we try to make cool skiing videos of each other. And I think that the GoPro is pretty handy, but I guess having the stick for it would probably be the best tip of advice there for that. And again, just playing around with it and getting comfortable with it.
And I think that's a big thing. Like, there's so many different things out there, so many different tools you can use. I would say start off really cheap. Start off with the stuff that you already have. And then if you want to work your way up and try out new things and you have that money or that budget for it, then definitely jump into it. But start off with the cheap stuff, because you won't know exactly what you want or what you like until you start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, Amber, you made a really good point earlier in your video too about being able to use, say, a lapel mic that you're investing in this year specifically for videos, that you may actually be able to use that technology in the future and in-person events as well. So that's something to consider.
The other note on that, and I didn't say it in the video, is that honestly, if you think about it, how much do we spend on booking halls and food and all that? Whereas some of this equipment, like especially things like a lapel mic that you can use all over the place, some of this is long-term equipment. So while it seems like it's a bigger cost up front, realistically, if you put it into perspective and how much we actually spend on extension, it's not as big as what it seems up front.
I was just going to make that comment too, that instead of doing events, you're maybe going to be creating a video about that topic instead of having an event put on. And that is going to be an investment to create these videos, but also you're saving the money from not hosting your events this year too. So that's something to consider as well when you're trying to send up your request to get the approval via microphone.
Great. Well, I'm not seeing a whole lot of extra questions. If anything comes up as a follow-up, feel free to message us. And we will hopefully, as long as the recordings worked, be able to post that afterwards if you want to look back at it. And actually, sorry, there's, oh, I guess Amber's answered it in the chat already. So never mind. That's great.
Yeah, we would love to have more of these sessions about remote outreach or outreach as a whole and extension tips as a whole. So I'd love to hear back from you. I will send a follow-up email with this information. If you can just send me a quick thing back, just letting me know what kind of topics you're interested in, that will really help us in knowing where to go in the future with these sessions. And hopefully we can have one maybe next month again and see if there's another topic that we would like to do. And I had thought maybe marketing or communications type of strategy, social media marketing was the good topic. But if there's something else that we're missing and you want us to cover that, then just let us know too. And I think that's all. I guess I will, if we can stop the recording, I have some other updates that are just